Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
There you are, mate.
Don't,
what's the
mate.
matter?
Oh, I can hardly contain myself. I'm so.
What is the matter with you?
It's the end of the season, Sam. It's the end of the season. The last episode. It's sad. I don't know how you can be so hard. Very upset.
Yes, it's sad, but we're only going to have a short break, and then we're going to be back with season 12, aren't we? So there is that.
I'm cheering up now. I'm cheering up. That's much better.
Yeah, and I'm going to cheer you up even further, mate. Because before we get to that, what are we doing today? We're looking back over the best bits of us.
Us, of course we are. Of course, I'm cheered up now. I'm bright. Yeah, I'm happy.
That was a real quick turnaround. Have you ever thought of doing any acting, mate? That was quite good.
No, I never do any acting. No.
No, I think I know a few people that would probably agree there. Anyway, before we get into an insult competition, which is basically what we're about to watch highlights of. Yes, we are on our final episode of season 11. Very, very sad, but what an episode to end it with. It's one of our favourite moments of the season, our favourite bits of all the episodes that were just us. And to be honest with you, mate, I don't think there's any point hanging around and chatting about it. I think we should just treat all our lovely listeners and watchers to the best bits of season 11, Drew and Sam.
Let's go for it.
And we're back. Hello, mate. Woo!
We're here.
We're back. It's you. It's me in the same place. Well, no, we're on Zoom. But
no, we're on Zoom.
But we're back.
Yeah, season 11, mate.
11. My lucky number. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I
I think you might have mentioned that a few weeks ago, actually, when we did our last, when we were back in the home of Drewling Samantics and recording together.
Yes,
seems such a long while ago. Then you get to that when the line is muddied, because then you get to actors portraying characters, and I mean, I think Claire Foy and Olivia Colman, Melda Staunton, they're not aiming to look like her. I think the idea is that to bring the essence of, you know, one of the most famous women in the world to light and tell a story, and you know, we will never know whether, you know, we will never know what happens behind the closed doors of Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, whatever. But if they can bring something to light and bring, you know, and also I think, I mean, I know when Helen Mirren played it, that, you know, she dealt with a very difficult period of the Queen's life and very difficult situations. And it became, you know, I don't think the Queen would have said that. Did she say that? Didn't she? It becomes a huge, you know, conversation piece, and you know, could be the making or breaking of someone. So I think you've got to have huge acting chops, and be quite brave about taking something on like that. You know, particularly when someone who is as well known as beloved as the Queen. Okay, well, I'm going to throw a name at you now, and some people might know the name, some people might have made the connection, but an actor called Susan Backlini, American actress. She was an actress and stunt woman, and filmed one of my favourite films, and she filmed an absolutely iconic cinema moment. She was she shared the screen with should I say a participant that you didn't see at that precise moment, but you got to see a lot more of as the film went on.
Right now, see, you're starting to lose me now. I was hoping
Spielberg movie made in 1975 with a big fuck off fit in it.
Spielberg 75. Right, okay. So are we referring to she shared the screen, or she was part of a team with an actor who perhaps doesn't live on land?
Got it.
Perhaps an actor with quite a few teeth.
In fact,
the German translation of the title of this movie is Teeth in the Sea.
Teeth in the Sea.
Teeth in the Sea is the German translation of, we're talking about Jaws.
Jaws, yes, of course.
Yeah.
So,
And it was her film debut. She was, as I say, a stuntwoman, an actor and stuntwoman. And she was the first female victim of Jaws in 1975. She has that wonderful thing where she's swimming in the sea and you see her dragged under, and there's that amazing moment of her screaming. It is, for me, I mean, I love the movie Jaws. I think it's a fabulous film. Not disconnected from Roger Corman's style of stuff. I think Steven Spielberg had watched a few of Corman's movies before making Jaws.
Yeah.
But I mean, that opening sequence in Jaws where you hear that music, you see the death of Chrissy Watkins is the character's name. Chrissy Watkins is swimming in the sea and gets well.
So, I mean, you said iconic, and I certainly can't argue that. I mean, I remember the first time I watched Jaws, and I must have been not very old. I'm thinking maybe 7 or 8 years old. And if my parents are watching right now, apologies, but it was Granddad's fault. I was staying with my grandparents, and I watched Jaws, and he was on the sofa, half asleep, doing the sort of wide open snore and a half an eye every now and then. Late at night, I shouldn't have been up. I was only very young, but it properly traumatized me. But still, at the same time, I could sort of appreciate, wow, that was a great movie. It was terrifying. Granddad, why did you let me watch it? And I mean, we're talking, but even it's that long ago. I was young, and I remember and I've gone completely off topic here, but they had. Do you remember when you had like a stereo system with a TV? So it was like a big cabinet with a glass front, so you had to open the glass door, and there was the TV at the top, and then sort of like stacks for your radio and your tuners and stuff, and everything was a proper like click button or a real
buttons.
Click. Yeah. So the TV only had 1, 2, 3, 4 on it. Like, brilliant, and that is my memory of Jaws, watching it for the first time and being absolutely fucking terrified, but loving it equally.
I saw it on the big screen. I managed to sneak in to the cinema and see it as a teenager. I was about 16 at the time when I saw it, I think. Oh. And I went to see it, and well, I mean, we'd all sneaked in. I mean, they let us in. It was, and we were all sitting in the cinema going, "Oh my god!" Because there was a lot of gore.
Yes.
But I mean, that shark on a big screen is superb. I mean, the scene with where it's on board the boat and chomping. Spoiler alert! Chomping through, I think
at this point, if anyone doesn't know what happens in Jaws,
if no one don't, exactly.
It's like going, are you going to watch the Titanic? Spoiler alert, it sinks. I think we probably all knew that.
Theatre is an inclusive world, and we pride ourselves on the doors are wide open for everyone. But pantomime in particular has been singled out in an article in The Stage this week as one of the most inclusive and diverse and most welcoming of theatre genres.
Yeah,
which I read the article, and it's a fabulous article, and very fabulous. But it's not anything that people in the business didn't already know. But it just, for me, highlights how pantomime is important. But also it does convey a social message. It does have a lot to say, and that it is still, people say, oh, it's an old-fashioned thing, or it's still politically very relevant. And it still has something to say. And in its very core, it's saying something. I read that article with great joy. You've done some shows inside and some outside. What are you finding? Are you finding a difference in the audience? Do they, obviously, when you've got a roof over your head, there are different things going on, but what's been the feeling?
A theatre audience is a theatre audience, isn't it? People go in, understand that they sit down, they be quiet, they laugh in the right places, they applaud in the right places, and they try and enjoy their evening. An outdoor performance is a very different thing, because obviously what is sort of promoted in a lot of outdoor theatre, particularly in ours, is that you go along, you can have some drinks, you can have your picnic, you can sit in your chairs, or you can sit on blankets, you can cuddle up warm. If it rains, then you just put your hood up and away you go, and you kind of deal with it. And equally, you've got that sort of, in the theatre, people go, right, well, unless I'm absolutely desperate, no, I'm going to sit through till the half, till the interval before I get up and use the facilities or whatever. Outdoor, you kind of go, well, I'm not really going to disturb people in the same way. We're not sat in the same rows, or certainly in the shows that I'm doing. So I can sort of sneak out and people might not really care. Equally, I think perhaps, I was going to say you have to concentrate more outside. I don't mean that in a sense of like the pieces are different, because they're not. It's the same piece whether it's inside or out. But I think in a theatre, the sound is coming from one place and that it will come to you. Certainly with microphones, the sound will come all around you, so you don't have to try too hard as long as the tech is working. And as we know, the tech doesn't always work, but that's not the point. But outdoor theatre, obviously, we're having to project more to make sure that the sound does travel, because it's just, well, as soon as it goes, it vanishes.
It's gone.
And we are not mic'd, so we don't use microphones for any of our performances, be that indoors or outdoors. So we are just upping the volume in the same way you did for, was it One Man Two Governors you did outside, and you did another one as well?
Yeah, One Man Two Governors, Lavender Hill Mob. Yeah, we did not Lavender Hill Mob. What I'm talking about. What comes to me? Gone. Brighton Open Air Theatre. Yeah.
Which I'm going to later this month, later next month, can't remember. But we're performing there as well. So you do have to change your performance. But equally, I think the audience have to change in that they have to concentrate slightly more, because there can be so many other distractions, other sounds going on. The weather makes a difference as well. So yeah, I'm not, I wouldn't say they're different audiences per se, but I think the behavior, or certainly the way they enjoy a piece like that, changes depending on where they are. And I think
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think they own the space more outside. Do you know what I mean? Because they set themselves up. We noticed that when we did Brighton Open Air Theatre, it's like an auditorium. There are stepped seats and everything, and it's comfortable. It's you've got AstroTurf under your backside, so it's reasonable. You can lean back. But people create their little spaces. So you'd get a couple, and husband and wife, in between them is their blanket. They've got a bottle of wine. The other thing is you get rustling of crisp packets and sweeties in the theatre occasionally. Outside, it's everything. It's corks going off. And it's like, what are you not doing out there? But it made you giggle, because I know someone, we were doing one scene in and a cork. And all the criminals in the scene went, "What? What was that?" And we all just reacted, and big laugh from the audience, and we carried on. You can't ignore it, so we all went, "What was that?" Blimey, and then it was.
Well, that's it. I mean, there are silly things, like we've got there's a conversation that goes on about there being a breeze in a room. I don't know how well you know An Ideal Husband, but
vaguely, yeah.
Lord Goring is chatting to his father. Lord Caversham, who is very adamant that there is a breeze in in his dining room or his living room, wherever they happen to be. When you're stood outside doing that, people piss themselves off. Of course, there's a fucking breeze. We're outside. It's windy, and you can tune things to that, and you can sort of run aware, and it's very tongue in cheek and stuff. But I think an audience are, I think they're more expectant within a theatre. I think they expect everything to be very much on it. I think they are more forgiving as an audience outside, because they know you're in the elements and you are at the mercy of nature, etc. So yes,
you're all going through it as well, aren't you? That's the thing, is you're all, when a plane goes overhead and you're in a Shakespeare play, everyone goes, "Yeah, we know. We'll all just ignore it." But I think we know. It was wonderful at the Jazz Festival, because we were outside under a canopy, under what's known as a stretch tent. I didn't know it was called that until the weekend. There are no sides to it, so you are playing. We weren't playing in the round, but there are people sitting behind us at picnic tables, and it had a real festival vibe to it. Families are sitting there with the children. They were, they were eating. There were pints going. There were picnic tables. It's all going on.
Yeah.
They were very much focused on the show, which is great. And it is very, very full of audience participation. The children are coming up playing instruments. They're playing shakers. They're waving balloons and the rest of it. That is the whole feel to it. But it was very much that the audience loved it. They were really getting into it. They're getting serious jazz as well as children, but that's the whole mixture of the show.
Mm.
It was very interesting watching the audiences coming out, having watched. There was a marquee opposite, and there was a very serious, for want of a better word, jazz band on playing great jazz. And then the audience would come out of there and they go, "What on earth is going over there with all those children playing?" And they're going, "There's serious jazz going on there," as well as everybody, we had everybody shaking shakers and waving balloons and in time to great jazz tunes. But their behavior was totally different. We were outside and they were going for it. And then we went in to watch the jazz in the evening once we'd done our 2 shows.
Mm.
And everyone is very respectful. They're very serious jazz aficionados and audience, and they're all applauding, after the jazz solos and everything. And if anybody rustled or came in, their heads turned. There was a shh, what are you shushing before? There's a 10-piece jazz band on up there. Very, very strange. And also the other thing was there was a lot of beer. There was a big beer tent, and in the afternoon there was a polite drinking. In the evening, they went for it,
Gary Oldman played Sid Vicious in Sid and Nancy. So, but you put those two next to each other, right? So they're both played, both people, famous, real people played by Gary Oldman. Put Sid Vicious next to Winston Churchill and go, these two were played by the same actor, and you go, there's no way.
Really?
It's just not.
It's a huge testament to his his and their skill as actors, and we do like to see people play, and biopics, and one of my favorites is Robert Downey Jr., one of my favorite actors playing Chaplin, who my hero.
Mm.
I mean, he was immense in that film. He was incredible,
But there's also an element of maybe going too far and things being difficult. I mean, Jim Carrey playing Andy Kaufman. Jim Carrey is an interesting character anyway, and people talk about method acting, don't they? I mean, one of the most famous ones is probably Heath Ledger, who was so immersed in the character of the Joker that he sort of hid himself away and watched horrible things and did. And then you've got, what's his name, Shia LaBeouf, who actually had a tooth pulled out, I think, without anaesthetic to get into that. So people have gone sort of above and beyond and taken on these things. And Jim Carrey is a big example of that. It's almost an uncomfortable performance because he was so immersed in it. Nonetheless, a very, very talented man. And he made famous his impressions, things doing some of the sort of faces he could create. This master manipulator, rubber face almost, where he could be different people. Jack Nicholson and Clint Eastwood, and you look at him and you go, "Oh my God, he is literally there!" Like incredible. UK and Ireland tour of the Doris Day story, which fabulous show, obviously all about the life of Doris Day. I got to play some very pivotal characters in her life, some very influential people. And it was super. I mean, it was exhausting, absolutely exhausting. Never felt like my feet touched the floor because we UK and Ireland, so we were all over the place. We'd be in Scotland one day, Northern Ireland the next day, then all the way down on the southwest coast, like all the way down to, so we were in Exmouth, and then we were in Peterborough, and then we were in St Helens, and just absolutely everywhere. And
you were doing really tough touring as well, because you were doing one-nighters, am I right?
We were, yeah. So rather than sort of getting into a venue and spending a week there, we would get in, arrive on the day, whether we travelled up, down, wherever we're going on that day. So probably a good 3 or 4 hours in a car, or I had to go on a ferry, and I don't like boats. That was one point. Some planes and various
Big on boat.
planes, trains, and automobiles, all those kind of things. But then on the day, we'd then get into the theatre. Tech team would set things up and get all the stuff in. Then we'd go in and do techs, and then we'd check props in the right place, costumes in the right place, work out where we were. I mean, because obviously there is no universal stage. There is no, this is the stage is this size and the wings are this size and the auditorium's this size. Like, they're all different. So we were adjusting for everyone, finding out where the dressing rooms were, how far you had to run when you had a quick change from backstage all the way upstairs. God knows what. Yeah, it's crazy. It's the hardest kind of touring, I think, personally. But equally super rewarding, because you know those audiences are unlikely to get another opportunity to see in that area, because it's very much regional and looking in certain spaces. Yes, we do, I don't know, somewhere in Scotland and somewhere else in Scotland, but they weren't really within travel distance where people would go, oh, I've missed that first one, I'll go see the second one. So yeah, it was great. It was super rewarding. It seems to be that anything that is slightly more academic, shall we say, gets more support. And certainly, again, I don't know, it's not really my background, but I believe it's far, far more difficult to get financial support if you come from a poor background, if you are going into the arts, if you are going to study at a theatre school as opposed to a mainstream university. But this is more your area of expertise. I say that it was. I think you went to drama school with Noah and his arc, didn't you? Was that long ago? But it's.
I only went because, you know, I was sent by, you know, by the casting director. That's the only reason I was there. Yeah. It's like there are two of everybody on here. Well, he's going over the side for a start if he's going to get my work. But no,
yeah. Exactly.
I mean,
no, it's something you're more familiar with, certainly. Like, and I know bits about your background. Are you happy to talk about like what happened financially and stuff? Right.
I mean, to follow up from what you were saying just before, I think it's yeah. I mean, it's that you invest in or investment is given to university students because, you know, it's harder to get funding for the arts. It's harder because we're not seen as money making. It just, you know, what's productive about putting on a show that people come and enjoy, and that's the whole dichotomy of it is like, but for every actor that is working there, for everybody who's working in that building, they are paying tax. They're if the show goes on tour, there are so many things that are so many little intangible things that you don't know, and we've had this discussion many times, that theatre does, and you alluded to theatre and education and stuff like that. But it's a business like anything else. It hasn't been treated as such in a widespread, and I think people now are going, hang on a minute, if we are going to survive and if we are going to demand backing and support and investment, then we have to prove that it's a viable business. And I think we're getting there now, because if theatre doesn't do it, you know, it's got to start swimming rather than just waving its hands for you know, for a life belt. And I think that's a terrible metaphor, but I think that's where we're heading.
It's an interesting.
But I mean,
I've not had that before, but
yeah, I'll just chuck it all together. Yeah. But I mean, from my point of view, I mean, I went to drama school 79 to 82 at Webber Douglas, which no longer exists. It was amalgamated with Central many years ago. I mean, yeah, I mean, I didn't end up with student loans and student debt. There was no such thing as a student loans in my day. I mean, there were grants, but I didn't qualify for one because I got a subsistence allowance.
Yeah.
That I could eke out and just about live on, but I worked when it was summer holidays, you know, end of term holidays. I worked. I had to work, and then during my summer holiday, I would try and earn a term's fees, or at least half my fees or whatever. I was supported by my dad, who, here's a little connection. My dad was a tool maker. I don't know if Keir Starmer ever mentioned that his father was a tool maker. He might have slipped it into conversation occasionally. He never stopped bloody mentioning it. But my dad was a tool maker as well. They had the same profession.
Oh, incredible!
So yeah,
hopefully that's that kind of Keir Starmer will. I mean, we know he mentions it all the time,
All
but
the time.
he will play on the fact that yes, working class background. Listen to the other people that come from working class, hard
That's what.
working.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping that front bench will do. But yeah, I mean, I applied for a grant. I had to go and audition in front of the education board, Bedfordshire Education Board. These people wouldn't have known theatre from a tennis racket. They had
So hang on,
no.
just to establish. So we're not talking about your audition to get into drama school. This you're technically accepted into drama school at this point.
I've got a place at drama school, and then I need some funding.
So you've got to audition before the people who decide what happens with the funding.
Yeah.
So you've done your important audition, and then they're making you, but not the university. You're being made to audition again by people who have no idea.
No idea. Not a clue. Not a clue.
You had a vehicle sort of torn to pieces, didn't you? Like doors and wheels.
The wheels were nicks. Yes. Yeah.
But you made it and did the show.
Yeah.
Whereas in this case, there was literally no way around it. And I mean, I'm sure to an extent we've all experienced it in some way or another. I mean, I was filming The House That Zombies Built, which is due for release next year, very soon anyway. Horror movie. And I was on my way to filming, and I was driving along, and the car made a funny noise, and it started to slow down. And at this point, I'm on the in the outside lane of the motorway, going 70.
Oh, don't. Oh,
70 for the record. 70. I would never go above 70.
70.
But it was a little bit of a poo your pants moment. I'll be honest with you, mate, because
bloody right.
I'm in the outside lane of the motorway going 70, and all of a sudden I've got no power. Now, fortunately, it wasn't immensely busy, so I was able to safely indicate, pull over, and ended up on the hard shoulder. Turned the engine off, went to start it, and it just nothing. It's like, but there was no noise. There was I didn't detect anything at all. But essentially, it turned out the engine had, for want of a better term, shit itself. I ended up on a recovery truck, and then had a very, very sort of quick turnaround to try and find another vehicle. But that day, filming was absolutely written off. There was no way, and I don't think I managed the following day either. Fortunately, I was working for a very accommodating, very, very open, friendly, whatever you want to call them. The production team were brilliant. And I phoned him. I was like, "I'm really sorry, but there is no way.
Yeah, ain't no way.
A taxi's going to cost enormous amounts of money. Public transport just not possible. By the time I get to you, there'd be no point." And they were like, "Don't worry about it. We'll do different script pages. Like we've got certain actors in, we can work around." And they were really, really accommodating, really brilliant, and on the spot sort of went, "We'll do this. We'll do this. We'll do this. We don't need you. We don't need you. We haven't got you, so we will work around that."
Well, Sam, I mean, I'm laughing out of relief for you because what an horrendous thing to happen when you're off for a day's filming. I mean, you can only be thankful it was the car that broke down and not you.
Well, yes. I mean,
ouch.
I'm not one for breaking down too often, and I'm talking about that personally. But yes, in this case, I guess I was glad it was the vehicle, not me. But that said, I really don't want to experience that again, particularly. So,
I bet you needed
wouldn't mind behaving yourself.
Didn't you? You needed a stiff drink after that, mate. Crikey.
Well, I don't know about that. I think I probably did end up with one at some point. But it's funny you should say it, Drew, because I don't necessarily need a stiff drink, but I certainly need to top my drink up. So if you wouldn't mind waiting for just one moment, I'm going to refill.
I will wait here. I won't go anywhere. And there we are. Are you back? Are you refreshed? Are you refilled?
Yes, so I am currently holding a lovely cold beer, although sometimes that isn't the case on this podcast, is it? Because sometimes people don't keep to the times they've agreed, and then sometimes my beer ends up warm, doesn't it, Drew?
You're probably right. You might have to remind me on this one, mate, he says.
Well, there's one way of reminding you. Check this out.
Right, mate. Sorry about that.
And where the bloody hell have you been, Drewsif?
Yeah, well, I just need to...
Right, and no, you're not getting away with this one. Look, apologies, podcast listeners, watchers, people out there joining us in the ether today. I am grumpy because me and my partner here agreed to record 15 bloody minutes ago. Where have you been? Look, my beer is getting warm. Come on now, you better have a good excuse.
It was an odd few moments. I went down to my car parked to the forecourt, down to the car, and got the boot open, ferreting around, and a not unattractive policewoman. I have to say that's not the whole point, but she was. Said, "Excuse me, sir," I went, and I, immediate guilt. Immediate. What the hell have I done? Nothing. I've been to the opticians this morning, and I've been in the boot of my car, getting some shopping out.
Right.
And she said, "Have you been around recently? I think she meant, have you just got out of your car?" And I said, "No, I've been in the house for about an hour now. I've just come down to unload some shopping from the car." What? Why? Oh, there's been an incident, right? So by which time then, curious, I'm going sort of peeking over her shoulder to look further down the street where there are two police vans, a police car, and one of those black vans that they take bodies away in is the only way you can put it, like a coroner's.
Okay, right.
And they weren't there about 15, 20 minutes ago because I looked out the window, I thought, oh, I know what I've got to do. I've got to get. So then all of a sudden appeared. I don't know what had been going on. But I was apprehended, and I didn't help them in their inquiries because I had nothing that I could say because I said, no, I've been in the house, blah. What can I, But
what you're confessing to on an episode which is going to be available forever, as far as we're concerned, is that you wasted police time because you were of no use.
Wasted my time. The funny thing is, I'm standing there holding shopping bags in my hand, going, "These are quite heavy. I'd quite like to get upstairs." Did you notice that, as well as being your lucky number, 11, season 11, 11 also is very significant in many cultures. But number 11 is considered to bring intuition and inspiration. Do you know that? It's also a master number as well.
It is a master number, and it just so happens, mate, that I did do a little bit of Googling beforehand, and I've got...
I love it. I love it when you Google, Sam.
I was going to say a statement. It's not so much a statement, but it's a little piece of information about number 11. So I would, if you would care to allow me, I would like to read that to you and everyone listening and watching now. So it goes thusly. In numerology, the number 11 is not just any number. It's considered a master number, as you just referenced. This means that it carries a heightened level of spiritual significance and a unique vibration. It's just like a cosmic door that opens to spiritual awareness and inner wisdom. How about that?
Wallop. I mean, we've done 10 seasons, and season 11, that's a lot to live up to, mate.
It is, but
that's a lot to live up to.
That's a way to talk about Drewling Samantics than spiritual awareness and inner wisdom. Probably, because that's nothing to do with you and me whatsoever.
I tell you what, we're going to have to get some guests on to fill those spaces.
Yeah, I think there are areas that we're going to need to hit fairly rapidly.
Mary Poppins was the first movie I ever saw.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I saw Mary Poppins, followed by I think it was oh gosh, I'm trying to think, Snow White. And the Queen and Snow
When
White.
you say first you ever saw, you mean actually went to a cinema to see?
Went to a cinema and sat and saw in a cinema. Yeah. No, I saw Snow White and Seven Dwarfs first, and that scared me so much that I never made it to the end of the movie. But my mum and my grandma took me to see Mary Poppins, and I managed to make it all the way through, and tears down my face. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah. I guess Mary Poppins was less scary for you because obviously watching your fellow dwarfs on screen must have been quite like intimidating. Thinking these poor people that are probably a little bit taller than me, but not completely.
Yeah.
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 Go on, no, carry on, because I'm just waiting.
Because I realised as I was doing this,
I'm just waiting for us to be sued now for BC. Someone who passed away over the past few days, over the weekend of the 13th, 14th, 15th of July, was Joe Egan. Now, he and Jerry Rafferty, they founded Steelers Wheel, and a great folk rock band they were. And I mention him because he deserves a mention because of the great music he's written, but also because in one of my favorite films, Quentin Tarantino movie, Reservoir Dogs, Stuck in the Middle with You, which is a great little folk rock tune, and it was incredibly successful. It's probably used in one of the most gruesome scenes in a movie. Michael Madsen is torturing the young policeman they've taken prisoner after the robbery. If you haven't seen the movie, you should have seen the movie. So forget the spoilers here. You're late to the party. But the scene where he ties the guy up and covers him in lighter fuel and goodness knows what else, petrol and that, and chops his ear off. Stuck in the Middle with You, which is the irony of the song.
Oh God, yeah.
The way it's used in that movie. I mean, Quentin Tarantino always chooses fabulous music anyway. But that song, which is a great song, used in that moment, it's stuck in everyone's mind. So a nod to Joe Egan.
Yeah, such an incredible film, and such an impactful way of using what is quite a cheerful piece of music.
It was. Now, I got a little spin-off from that, which I got a little segue, Sam.
Here we go.
I went to see that movie with an old mate of mine who we went with a group of fellas, and we said we've got to see this film. It's we'd heard so much about it, and during that and subsequent there was two ladies about 5 or 6 rows in front of us in the cinema, a little cinema in Richmond in West London.
Yeah,
and big screen, and we were sitting there, and there's a lot of blood in that film, a lot of blood.
There is, yeah.
And particularly, they're lying there bleeding a lot. Nasty things happen. And at one point, this girl stood up and sort of clutched her mouth, and she was obviously, feeling the effects of the blood. And she dashed out the cinema. You have never seen audience members get out of the way quicker than they got out of the way as this poor girl ran from the auditorium to get the hell out of the way. I didn't know. I don't think she came back. I don't remember her coming back in. But yeah, that just suddenly came into my head that I remember sitting there, and even one of the guys I was with, he was sort of like, oh, looking away, because some of it was, not nasty, but it was very, very, very graphic and very well filmed. A friend of mine was working with a circus many years ago, and there are lots of little stories that come out of this. But he said they had to halt a performance one night, or actually, they had to have a forced interval because an act didn't turn up, and subsequently found out there was been an accident, stuck in traffic or whatever. Everyone involved was okay, but they couldn't make it, so they just couldn't go on. And it happened to be the clowns. They were traveling together, which, there were loads of things after that. It's like never put 2 clowns in the same car together. Then people were saying, well, did the wheels fall off, the door blow up, the engine, his story was, and they all rolled up, they got there eventually, God knows what time, in the early hours of the morning, and going, sorry guys, what can we tell you? We're here now.
This is the thing that we sort of we're talking about. We're about, in this country, we're about to engage in a new government. We have a new government coming in. We're in the transitional period now. We hope that things will be changed for the better. We don't know. We will obviously discuss them as we go along, and if we've got any information, any important, interesting information, we'll bring that up. But I guess the main sort of conversation point we get from this is that just because it looks like what you study or what you do as a profession is fun doesn't make it less important. And
it's a business. It's strange that we call it the business. We, as actors, we call it, I'm in the business.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's often referred to as the industry because it covers a wider sphere of stuff. Business and industry,
It's show business, not show hobby.
exactly.
Yeah.
We are viable. We make money. It's simply. When it comes down to simple facts, and there's been a lot of discussion in over the election about tax. Are they going to raise tax? If you pay me, I'll pay my tax. If I've got work to do, I'm happy to pay tax. I don't mind it. You can't run a country, can't do anything without some form of taxation. That's obvious. But, if you cut my job or you take my job away or take anybody's job away, then I'm going to need, or that if you take someone's job away, they're going to need support in some respect.
Yeah.
That costs the government. It costs more to support me out of work than it would supporting the infrastructure to give me work.
Yeah.
That's investment in anything is good. People pay a lot of money to go to university. They end up with vast debt, student debt, and thankfully I never ended up with that.
No.
I ended up a bit of an overdraft, but that was more my slate at the local.
In general, mate, that is.
Well, exactly. That was more my slate at the local pub.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, well, engineering. I understand that it produces things. It's productive. We produce things that give money.
I've also filmed another commercial, so I've been under makeup again.
Bloody back as Einstein again, are you?
I know, mate. I know. No,
Every time I turn on the damn TV, oh look, it's Drew again. Oh. So there's more of those to come, are there?
Yeah, there are. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But mate, as Einstein would say, it's all relative, mate. It's all relative.
Oh dear. Oh, wish you'd never got that bloody job.
Yeah,
I'm obviously overjoyed for you, mate. You were shocked because you were a teenager. You were in the cinema, and you were watching something where there was, excuse me, excessive amounts of blood and guts and gore and trauma and danger and what do they call? What's the word they use? Peril. Peril is the word that's used, isn't it?
That's what. Yes. Yes.
Now, before you went to see that, Drew, were there signs up saying, warning, this film contains peril and danger and teeth and jaws and blood and blah?
We'd heard about it word of mouth, but the only warning we really had was the certification.
Yes.
And I think it was 16 and over, whatever it was at that time. So we knew that what we were seeing contained, gore, basically,
Yes.
blood and gore and tension and peril. So we knew that much. But there were no other warnings.
No.
Really given,
And the reason I ask this is because, and I am going to let you take the reins because I know this is something that particularly you wanted to talk about, not because it's affected you more than me, but because it's something that you were reading up on. And
yeah, I
quite close
an article. Yeah.
Yeah. Is because there's been a bit in the media recently, and certainly in the world of theatre, talking about warnings before performances.
Mm.
And making people aware of certain things. And I think we're approaching a point again where we see it lots across every subject matter and every vocation and every aspect of life, where are we becoming almost like a bubble wrap society, mollycoddling and I don't know. I'm going to talk myself into a corner. You kind of explain to everyone listening and watching why we're going this route. So,
well, how it came about is that I was reading a couple of articles that would come out and Judi Dench was being interviewed. I believe it was the Radio Times. I might not. I read the article out of context, but she was told that in the theatre, more recently, that people are being given content warnings, trigger warnings, that what they may see contains, I don't quite know how it's worded in some, but it contains violence, upsetting scenes, or whatever. Now we get those, but if you're on Netflix, other streaming channels are available. If you're on Netflix, you see it, and it says in the corner contains, mild violence, blood, gore, nudity, whatever, sex scenes or whatever, it's there. And there is an age thing, 18, whatever, plus, whatever. Those warnings. So you can pretty much work out whether you want to see it, whether you want children or people of a certain age to see it. So you can work that out. Now, this is becoming prevalent in the theatre, that people are warned beforehand. Now, there's always been warnings about loud bangs, flashes, strobe lights, etc. That's pretty obvious. If you're going to sit there, if you are, if you suffer from epilepsy and there is a strobe light on stage or loud bangs or whatever, if you're deaf and you need to turn your hearing aid down because you're suddenly going to get a gunshot, that is practical. That no one would take issue with that.
Driven, essentially, isn't it? That is.
Yeah.
There is a logical and medical need for those warnings.
Absolutely. But Judi Dench was quite surprised and said, what I heard was, do they do that? And I'm going to read her. She was surprised that you get this. And she said, what did she say? There's how, it's brilliant. She said, do they do that? My God, it must be a pretty long trigger warning before King Lear or Titus Andronicus. Obviously, if that, for me, one thing that says an awful lot about, because she goes straight for the Shakespeare, a woman of class and and classical performance is going to go for the straights, But also, if you know King Lear, people have their eyes pushed out and they're stabbed and they're thrown off of cliffs. And Titus Andronicus, pies are baked and people die horribly. Yeah, but do you need that if you're going to a Shakespeare play? Are you going to be? I don't know. I still think the power of theatre is that you sit in that room with all these people, and sometimes you can work it out by the title. Do we need it? Do we really? Are we not taking away what theatre is all about?
I was about to pull you up then and go, is it the dumb thing to refer to oneself as a silver fox? But then you equally called yourself elderly or past it or something to kind of caveat it, I think so.
Yeah, they're a lot older than me,
Here we go.
Yeah, I prefer to see myself more as a silver wolf than or I don't know. But I actually, if you, and I'm going to say this now, and I'm never ever going to live this down, I know, but during the show, we've got lots of these balloon animals about which the songs are about. One of them is a donkey called Cecily, and she has a couple of songs that Verona has written, who fronts and heads up the band. One of which is called the Donkey Ding Dong, during which I'm manipulating the donkey, and we're having a ding dong, we're having a party.
Right.
Now, we went back, we finished our shows, we packed away and then went back to listen to jazz, have a drink and have something to eat. And a lady came up to me in the queue, a fellow performer, I should say, and she'd watched our show. And she went, "Oh my God, it's the Donkey Man." Now, I've never been referred to as the Donkey Man. It isn't a euphemism, I hasten to add. It was, she'd watched me basically playing with Cecily the donkey for about a quarter of an hour. Verona was howling with laughter. Lovely guy Tom Neal, who was our sax player, who has been a guest on Drewling Samantics. He was playing saxophone for us. They were both in hysterics as I was referred to as the Donkey Man.
Well, I think it's fair to say those who have been with Drewling Samantics for quite some time will have heard me call you lots of different things. Most of them not particularly friendly or complimentary, shall we say. But I promise you, never ever will I end up calling you Donkey Man Drew. That is reserved for that one occasion and nothing to do with me whatsoever.
I have to say, I'm rather happy it was a one-off, mate. I mean, it was a joyous, very comical one-off. But yeah, that one's best left. I mean, it was something I've never heard before, and fingers crossed, never again.
No. And the less said about who might have said it in your past, if it had ever been uttered, then no, we won't go into that.
Walk away from it, Sam. Walk away.
Yeah, steer away from the skid, not into
Steer
it.
away.
But no, I think it's just a really appropriate way to end our best of clips. We do try and fill the show with banter and Mickey taking and silly things, and that kind of sums us up really. And I guess the reason we do it is because we enjoy it and because it just feels right. And this is just us having a chat. And I'm sort of sounding quite philosophical now and how it makes a difference, but it genuinely does. But equally, it wouldn't make a difference if we didn't have all our wonderful watchers and listeners joining us each and every week. We've come to the end of another season, our 11th season, and we would never have guessed we'd be getting this far with it when we first started doing a little bit of Zoom chatting and then just putting out there to see what people thought. And
absolutely,
it's so unpredictable, like where we are now.
Well, I mean, we try and plan as best we can, and things crop up like work, thankfully, occasionally. But it has never stopped us pushing through. I mean, like now, this season 11 has been interrupted beautifully and perfectly by popping off and working. But we've always managed to pull ourselves back, find some time for people who have stayed loyal to us. And we thank them from the bottom of our hearts, because it started off trying to give a little bit back and trying to pull people together and have some fun and the banter between ourselves. And as we sit here, as you say, at the end of season 11, it just gets better and better. So I propose that we come back, we have a little break, and we come back and we do season 12. We have another season.
I think that sounds like a very good idea. So, yeah, another massive, massive thank you to every single person who has listened, watched, downloaded, streamed, commented, messaged, shared, liked, all those social media-y things and everything that just helps us keep going. We really, really do appreciate it. And also, we should say an enormous thank you, because we haven't actually mentioned this yet, and we may well put it in the social media, but very sadly, but for all the right reasons, our wonderful, wonderful Picnic is moving on to pastures new. He is not going to be doing illustrations for us in the future. So we owe him an enormous, enormous thank you. So Picnic, we know you're listening. Just thank you so, so much for everything you've done. I'm sure every single person that's seen any of our posts will agree. You're just the most talented guy, and Drewling Samantics wouldn't have been what it is and what it has been without you. So thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you, Nick. Brilliant stuff.
And yeah, that's pretty much it for 11. We will see you in 12, so make sure you join us very, very soon. Keep your eye on social media for the updates, and until then, Drew, have a good one, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
And you, Sam, take it easy. Take care,
everyone. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed this special highlights episode of Drewling Samantics.
If you have, then make sure you go and watch all our previous episodes in full for even more fun and interesting content. Please consider subscribing to our channel too, and you'll get notified every time a new video is released.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And we'd love your support on social media as well. We're on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and all our links and handles are on the screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so please share with your family and friends, and we'll be eternally grateful. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.